and welcome to the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago's 37th ICT Open Forum. This evening's discussion, Digital Terrestrial Television, Embrace the Future of TV. We have a fantastic panel assembled for this discussion. We will engage you, the public, a little later on in the program. But before we do anything, let us hear from the CEO of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Cynthia Reddock Downs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Cynthia Reddock Downs, Chief Executive Officer of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to our 37th ICT Open Forum titled Digital Terrestrial Television, Embrace the Future of Television. Tonight's Open Forum seeks to raise the awareness of television viewers on the transition to digital terrestrial television, or DTT, and the adoption of ATSC 3.0 as the national free-to-air broadcasting standard for Trinidad and Tobago, particularly the improvements it will bring to viewers of local free-to-air television. First of all, who is affected by these changes? If you only have free-to-air television in your home, like TV6, CNC3, TTT, and the Parliament channel, then you are affected. In other words, you do not subscribe to cable television services, which amounts to approximately 104,000 households. Free-to-air television broadcasting is an essential medium for disseminating information to the public, as it is accessible at no cost to the public. TATT has commenced its engagement with the broadcast industry to transform from analog to digital free-to-air broadcasting. ATSC 3.0 will benefit free-to-air TV viewers as they will receive features currently only obtained via subscription television or cable and streaming services in Trinidad and Tobago like high definition and ultra-high definition video quality, and access to an electronic programming guide and interactive viewing. DTT will be another tool to bridge the digital divide, as it will make more desirable low-band radio frequency spectrum available for other telecommunications or broadcasting services, increasing the availability of quality connectivity across Trinidad and Tobago. The transition from analog to digital free-to-air broadcasting will involve the engagement of several critical stakeholders. These stakeholders include consumers of free-to-air television broadcasting, free-to-air broadcasters, wholesalers and importers of TV sets, and retailers or sellers of TV sets. Consumers are advised that there will be a phased approach to switchover that will allow for the replacement of the television equipment only if you need to do so, and there will be set-top boxes available for those who cannot or do not need to replace their sets and must continue to use the existing television equipment. Tonight we have Dr. Claire Grant, Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Broadcast and Content Services from the RJR Gleaner Communications Group from Jamaica. Jamaica has in January 2022 adopted ATSC 3.0 as the national standard, and their DTT transition has begun. Mr. Shiraz Mohammed of Circuit Zone Limited, invited to participate in this forum for the unique expertise and experience he will bring to tonight's discussion. Our representative is Mr. Curly Prescott, Executive Officer, Technology and Engineering, who has been championing the DTT transition at TATT. I thank all three presenters for agreeing to participate in this panel discussion tonight. I also thank Mr. Wendell Etienne for agreeing to employ his communications and media skills as the moderator for this forum. Thanks to you, our listening and viewing audience. Call in and join the discussion. We will be happy to hear from you. Do enjoy tonight's proceedings. Thank you and good night.
Thank you so much, CEO. I did tell you it's going to be a very compact hour ahead of us. We have our panel who is going to engage the discussion, and I'm going to hold on to them for a little bit before I include you. But let's meet the panel. On my extreme right, you'll see him on the left of your screen when we go to that view. we have Mr. Shiraz Mohammed. During the years 2012 to 2020, Shiraz worked at Trinity Communications Network as their ICT manager. His responsibilities included the management of network infrastructure and overseeing the transition of satellite TV reception to internet-based broadcasting. Since 2020, Shiraz has been employed in the dual capacity of business marketing manager and IT manager by Circuit Zone Limited, a customer electronics superstore. Among his many responsibilities, Shiraz is also tasked with the management and deployment of information technology systems within Circuit Zone Limited. He is married and is the proud father of two, a son aged 21 and a 12-year-old girl. Welcome, Shiraz.
Thank you very much.
Also in the studio with us, we have representing the regulator, Mr. Curley Prescott. He serves as the Executive Officer, Technology and Engineering at the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. He has over 20 years of leadership in experience in technical and general management roles in the telecommunications sector for both regulators and operators across various markets in the region, including Trinidad and Tobago, Curacao, Barbados, and the Windward Islands. Curley holds a BSc in Electrical and Computer Engineering from the University of the West Indies and an MSc in Telecommunications from the University of Maryland. He's an avid cricket fan and soca music lover, so you know this is his season. He lives with his wife, Trisha, and their two sons, based in central Trinidad. Welcome, Curley.
Thank you very much, Wendell.
Also joining us out of Jamaica and joining us online, we have Dr. Claire Grant. Dr. Grant is a media professional with more than 3 decades of industry experience across print, television, radio, and over-the-top television. News reporting, copy editing, product editing, product development, sub-editing, marketing and sales management, general management, project management, and strategic leadership are all part of a skill set. Dr. Grant's tertiary education includes a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of the West Indies, a Master of Arts degree in International Journalism from the City University in London, a Master's degree in Business Admin with a marketing specialization with distinction from the Mona School of Business, and a Doctor of Business Administration from the Mona School of Business and Management, Faculty of Social Sciences program. Dr. Grant is currently the president of the Regional Media Group, the Caribbean Broadcasting Union, and is an executive member of the Media Association of Jamaica. Dr. Grant, welcome. So, my friends, we have Dr. Grant on standby, but I'll address you guys in studio immediately. Digital Terrestrial Television. We are moving from our analog system into a digital environment. As the regulator, could you set the plate for us this evening?
Sure, well, Wendell, thank you so much for that. So, since the inception of free-to-air or over-the-air television broadcasting here in Trinidad and Tobago, we have used the legacy, traditional analog form of television broadcasting. So what we've grown up with, what we know, what we know is, well, TTT from over the years, they've been broadcasting on many different channel numbers. You know, many years ago, there used to be 2 and 13.
2 and 13.
Yes, correct.
And you
now,
tap your TV when the reception dips a little bit.
yes. And play around with your rabbit ears, you know. So, of course, now TTT, the current version of TTT, they broadcast on channels 9, 13, and 20. CCN, TV6, they broadcast on channels 6, 18, and 19, and so on and so forth. Parliament broadcasts on channels 11, 26, and 29. So that is what is currently done. Televisions across the market, they generally can support, can receive, and show the signal to viewers. You would need an antenna to receive the signal. But because it's analog, it's limited to what it can do. The highest definition you can get using the current analog format is standard definition. Now, for those of us who enjoy subscription television or streaming, we've grown accustomed to high definition viewing, right? And that is what free-to-air, over-the-air broadcasting cannot reach. It cannot deliver that quality of broadcast. The other aspect of analog broadcasting is what I just explained. You would have multiple channel numbers. That is done in order to achieve national coverage without interference, right? So you get one part of Trinidad, you're on channel 6, but so what you see in programming on different parts of Trinidad, you have to tune to channel 18 or 19, whatever the station broadcasts on in that particular area. So that's another limitation of the traditional analog over-the-air broadcasting. A third limitation for those of us who may be accustomed to subscription TV is the ability to have a guide, right? So right now with over-the-air broadcasting, you know, when you're watching programming, you don't have the ability to see what's the schedule of programming or what's going on another channel while you're watching content. So while you're with those with subscription cable television, they've grown accustomed to that. And like as it's streaming, you have the menus and so on. You could pull up what else is available. But with free-to-air over-the-air broadcasting, you don't have that capability. To add that capability to analog free-to-air broadcasting, you need another channel, right? So imagine getting a channel 15 just to go and watch the guide, right? So what the beauty of digital terrestrial television does is to those of us who still receive their television content over the air, you know, via antenna, you now have access to the improved quality, moving away from just standard definition to high definition. And if the broadcasters choose to broadcast in 4K, you can gain access to 4K resolution video broadcasting. You can get enhanced audio reception, so not just normal what they call stereo audio, but you can get, you know, surround sound, those sort of enhanced audio experience. I talked about the guide earlier. That now comes available with digital broadcasting because you have the ability to provide that additional data to the television for the consumer to access the guide, and a host of other features that digital terrestrial television can accommodate just by virtue of going digital.
Wow, you have set the table quite nicely, and it begs the question, why wait so long?
yes. Yeah, you know, interesting question. It would have been nice. I mean, this journey that we've been on, we've started this journey since 2010 as the regulator, the Telecom Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Other countries have switched from analog to digital many, many years ago. The America would have shut down their analog since 2009, the United States of America, right? I guess in the case of Trinidad and Tobago, the urgency to switch wasn't quite there. But what we're seeing with the prevalence of streaming opportunities and so on and so forth, that the viewership, the viewers in the country, their needs have evolved, their expectations have evolved. And this is why we are at this critical point where we need to make this investment and make this pivot to a digital platform.
Shiraz, I want to bring you in at that point. How exciting for the environment is this shift into the digital environment?
Basically, it's a very smooth transition we're going to be emerging into, because a lot of TVs that are coming in now are being set in the platform of ATSC 3.0, which is a digital platform we are going towards the next-gen TV.
Right, so you have now confused several people with ATSC and next-gen TV. So I want you to go into a little more detail for us.
Okay. ATSC is just basically a standard that was set for television broadcasting, which America has adopted, Jamaica, Trinidad, and a few other countries. Right, and that platform is where we will now be buying into TVs that are ATSC 3.0 in order to enable that feature of the digital over-the-air broadcast that we're going towards.
So we now have a movement of our environment from analog to digital, which will provide an enhanced experience to the end user that requires a specific type of hardware. So I'm going back to you, Shiraz. Are we ready?
We are getting to that point of being ready. Set-top boxes will assist those that already have 4K televisions but don't have the tuner built in. So those are coming to tune those stations that we'll be getting over the air.
Now you're going to have a host of people who would have taken advantage of several sales from several places over the last 3 months in particular,
Yeah.
who are now screaming, but I'll now buy a TV. How difficult is it in terms of those of us to, one, figure out whether or not the units we have just purchased has the capacity, and two, if it doesn't, is it a complex process or procedure to adapt?
No, it's not a complex procedure. It's just basically like adding in a Fire Stick into your system, an Android box into your system, and switching the tuner on.
So it's a simple plug and we're good to go.
And you're good to go.
Okay, do I have to mortgage my house to get one of those?
It's not going to be that expensive.
So I'm going back to you, Curly, and in a short while I'm going to try to invite Dr. Grant back in. Now, Curly, this is going to be a phased process, and we heard the CEO mention that phased process. My assumption would be that we're now going to have two systems running alongside each other.
That's right.
How long is this entire conversion experience expected to take? And I'm asking that in the context of the media houses who now have their audiences split. You have business entities wondering where to go. How long would that process?
Excellent question. And different countries have taken different time frames to do this transition. Yeah. Our plan, and this plan that we've developed, has been done in collaboration with the broadcast industry. So I want to stress that we would have sat and had numerous meetings with the various players, with the free-to-air broadcasters, and with other stakeholders such as the retailers who sell television sets and so on, to come up with our current plan. But our current plan envisions that we switch on digital signals by sometime during the middle of next year. Right? So our plan, if it remains on track, we expect by the middle of 2025 to have digital signals available. Coming back to the point that Shiraz was raising about the improved quality and the improved experience, we anticipate, because Trinidadians, we are early adopters in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Once something better comes out, we gravitate towards it. So we anticipate, given the market behaviors in Trinidad and Tobago, that those who still consume over-the-air television will transition rapidly towards the better experience. Because as I said, when you go by a friend and you watch, or you go to the cinema and you watch something in IMAX quality or whatever, IMAX quality, and you get back home, you want that improved quality, right? You want that improved quality available to you. So once you know it's available, we anticipate the market in Trinidad and Tobago to gravitate rapidly towards this new standard, this new technology. Coming back to Shiraz's point, especially since the accessories that you need to migrate would not be expensive. So as we anticipate persons to migrate quickly to the newer, improved experience, we anticipate within 18 months, right, in a phased manner, I want to stress that in a phased manner, to have the majority of the over-the-air population transition from the analog platform to the digital platform. And let me explain a little bit about what that phase manner would mean. Again, it was interesting how when you asked me to set the plates, I talked about each station has multiple frequencies, 6, 18, 19, 9, 13, and 20. So the intention would be once the digital signal is up for a while, let's say 6 months, 9 months, one of those 3 frequency channels that a station has, we would turn off. Right? So like if channel 6, we're on TV 6 tonight, 6, 18, 19, the intention would be to discontinue channel 19 6 months after the digital switch on. So for those persons who were only viewing channel 19, that was their source of viewing channel TV 6, once they lose, and of course we'll have public awareness and information and telling people, hey, we're going to switch off, whatever. But once that channel 19 becomes available, all of the other persons who still have 6 and 18, they'll still have it. Right? But only those who relied on channel 19 only, they would now go secure their set-top box from their relevant retailer, install, transition to digital experience. And of course, we expect people to be transitioning before because of the improved experience, right? And then another 6, 9 months later, TV6, CCN can then discontinue channel 18. Once who on channel 6, they'll still be viewing channel 6. They won't be impacted. Although, again, they're hearing about the better HD quality on the digital platform, so they're moving over anyway. But for those who were only relying on 18, as 18 discontinues, they would go and get the accessories, whether it is the a suitable television that can receive the ATSC 3.0 signal, right? Or the set-top box that can receive the ATSC 3.0 signal. So they would go and secure the accessory, or television, or appropriate television. And then when we get to the end of the 18 months I just referred to, which will be sort of like the end of 2026, early 2027, then we would look at switching off that sort of third channel number that the current broadcasts have. And then we would essentially have fully transitioned the new digital experience.
Does this new environment create a capacity for new media houses to participate in this free-to-air environment?
I would say yes, because one of the beauties of digital, and again, this is one of the benefits of digital. In the old analog world, for a television station to broadcast, he would now need to go and purchase his own transmitters, get his own sites. So every broadcaster would have their own set of transmitters, right, broadcasting on their own frequency. And, as I have mentioned 2 or 3 times already, they would have 2 or 3 frequencies, right? So in the analog world, one television station, TV6, has 3 frequencies, and each frequency would need a transmitter. In the digital world, that equation flips. With the same transmitter, right, you can have multiple broadcasters being carried.
Sharing that one
transmitter, right? So from a cost perspective, the cost floor goes down considerably for the broadcasters. And what it means is that a new broadcaster that has satisfied all of the regulatory requirements that get an authorization from the telecom authority, they can negotiate with the current broadcasters with the infrastructure and come on in. So for example, I want to bring a real world example of this here. Right now, Government Information Services Limited, right? That's what's been traditionally known as Channel 4. Right, yeah? So they are authorized to broadcast on channels 4 and 16. But because of the need to have their own transmitters and so on and so forth, they're not on air right now. They're only available on subscription television. You can only, on subscription television, if you're a subscription television subscriber, you can access that channel. Once this new digital infrastructure is set up, right, and TTT is participating on that infrastructure, it's a much easier arrangement for GISL to be available, to be restored on air. So these are some of the benefits we're looking forward to in this new digital world.
Excellent. In around January, I believe, of 2022, we had Jamaica getting into that environment, and aggressively so, with a very strong campaign. We are fortunate to have Dr. Grant online with us. Dr. Grant, are you there? Welcome.
Good day, good night, everybody.
There you are. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to toss you right in there and tell us a bit about the Jamaica experience in moving from analog to digital. And tell us a bit about where you are in the process.
Well, just a little bit of background. We would have had our regulatory announcement was made in January 2021, where the government indicated that the standard had been selected, ATSC 3.0, and they also set out a timeline. So they said they wanted the process to start in January 2022. So in January 2022, we switched on our first ATS 3.0 transmitter. And of course, we would have recognized that that would have been a lot of work that would have been going on during that COVID period. You're kind of just coming out of it. So it's a very interesting period for us because in that window of time, a lot of your support team that would be coming from the suppliers abroad were not, into traveling because of COVID. And what it meant is that the team became a lot more hands-on. So that actual first transmitter that was turned on was installed by the team locally. Nobody came down to help support us. And, in a way that has been good for us. Because prior to that, you probably would have been onshore and hoping to get support to do it. Because we were able to do that, basically, yes, you had support online in terms of talking through, but physically, everything was done by the team locally. We're really very, very proud of that component of the first switch on. And obviously, yes, we are also proud of the fact that we become the third country in the world to do that, and that's a big deal for us. And I think it's a big deal for the region, actually.
Yes, indeed. And you made that transition without anything in the middle. You went straight analog to digital. What are some of the challenges or some of the questions that your consumers in Jamaica would have presented when they first heard about this big switchover coming to Jamaica?
Well, I mean, what we are doing is we think of the switchover process as having two phases of an experience. So there is the technical transmission side of the switchover. That's getting your transmitters and your antennas up. Our physical layout is a little bit different from Trinidad, so because of size and because of the topography, we are going to be using 20 sites, right? Very different. Already our network as is on the analog is roughly around 16 towers. We're going to be going to 20. So that's a very different kind of scenario. The site that we have put up is a site that is in the city, it's in the corporate area. And we erected a new tower at our home base, 200 feet up. And that actually has shown us, when we did our propagation studies and went out, we were getting signals in Kingston Parish, St. Andrew Parish, St. Catherine, sections of Clarendon, sections of St. Thomas. So we're actually seeing the signal reach to quite a number of parishes just from this one location. But obviously, you know, in the full rollout, that is a section of the parishes. Before the middle of this year, we're looking by April, we will be adding another 8 transmitters in, and that's going to put us at about 66 to 70% coverage of total population. So I was saying before that we think of it in two parts. So there is the digital switchover of the signal. We then say that there is now the digital switchover of the audience. And there are two different tracks to think of, and then the sequencing becomes important, because you really can't be talking about the audience and telling them about switching if there's nothing to switch to. So getting the signal up and getting it penetrating where you need to is very important. And then alongside that is the question of how are they going to get it. It's a set-top box as well as the television. In our case, we are pretty sure that we're going to be using quite a number of set-top boxes given the nature of our audience and how they currently receive the channel. So again, based on where everything is globally, we now know that there are roughly 4 certified boxes that are coming out of the US, and the push for manufacturers is taking place now. So we're hoping now, having done that rollout of the technical switch during the course of this year, to really pull on our audiences, get boxes in, and stimulate the market now to be getting the receivers so they can see the signal in mass.
Those of you just joining us, I want to say a special welcome. You are viewing, you've just joined us. We're almost at the halfway mark of this evening's programming, the 37th ICT Open Forum, courtesy the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Grant, I have another question for you before I return to the team here in the studio. Was there a need to revisit or review your current legislative framework to allow this process to happen?
Yes, it definitely, everything is happening in parallel, right? And it actually, I think, is, while it might seem that it's not the ideal way to go, and it probably isn't, but in the case of what we're doing, it probably is, because you don't want to be too delayed in moving. You have to move. We're not government, we're private sector, so we can't be, forever in limbo. And certainly one of the most important things for us is that analog technology is obsolete. You are at the point of having challenges in getting parts and keeping the network up. So this switch is something that we are very happy that the government has made that announcement. Yes, there have to be a number of of new structures, and that is something that is still in process. The government has a national steering committee that has various arms of looking into what is required, because lots of things change with ATSC 3.0 in terms of spaces that broadcasters can step into if they want to, and where lines are, kind of becoming blurred in a sense of the services that might be able to be offered. So yes, there is a lot that is going on in looking at what is the framework that supports it legally, what are the new regulations that probably need to be in place, and also what happens with how you think of the spectrum and the use of the spectrum. So all of that is in train as we're speaking.
Okay, Dr. Grant, please stay with us. Shiraz, is there an opportunity for mobile use along this new environment?
That would be a possibility once there's a way to tune the frequencies. And yes, there are little devices in the mill, as you'd have to say, being brought about to put that frequency into your Android phone. It's a smaller device, and it depends on the phone again, the models. Some of them can take input to receive the frequencies.
So now I'm coming back to you, Curly. Having heard all of what we have just heard, and we spoke a bit about the legislative framework, do we have that framework existing currently? That's one. And two, does the framework provide us with the data protection? Because from the time you start talking about existing in the digital realm, data protection becomes something of concern.
Okay. So from a framework perspective, one of the things the authority has spent a lot of time on is sort of setting the stage as to how we're going to accommodate digital terrestrial television. So we would have, and it's a timely question you've asked, just at the end of last year, from November to December, we would have updated, I should say, we would have revamped our digital terrestrial television framework. It was issued for public consultation. We had a single round of consultation. And based upon that process, that consultation process, in January, as in this month, probably less than a week ago, we would have finalized, got approved, and published our framework for digital terrestrial television broadcasting in Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, it touches on some of the topics we talked about: mobile use, interactivity, all that sort of stuff, and how we're going to, Dr. Grant talked about the blurring of lines and how there's a different philosophy in the digital world, where there's a separation from the network from the broadcaster. So whereas traditionally in the analog world, the broadcaster owned their own network, right, their own transmitters, everything. In the digital world, you would have this concept of a network operator, and then broadcasters providing their signal for the network operator to distribute. So the framework that we would have just updated and published caters for those things. From a data protection perspective, I would say, this framework is principally focused on broadcast, one-way dissemination. So there's the concerns about having to submit your information and so on. I mean, there is, and it's interesting you touched on this. Yes, as a broadcaster providing services, there may be consumers looking to subscribe to some sort of enhanced subscription-based service, let's say, right? And in terms of that regard, any service provider or network operator that's providing those services, yes, there are provisions in the framework and the implementation plan that we devised to ensure that sort of information is protected. So yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Shiraz, how can I check my current equipment to see if it's capable?
Okay, a lot of it can be done by simpler Google search based on the model of your TV. And you just insert ATSC 3.0 or next gen, and it will tell you whether or not your set matches it. But mostly sets produced, I would say, after 2020 would have had it in the high-end models, right?
How competitive is the environment in terms of producing these sets? We just heard Dr. Grant talking about getting the manufacturers on board to ensure that when they get to that point, you have a supply of stock. How competitive is that environment, especially for us in this region, to ensure that when we get to that point, our end users will have a quality product at a reasonable cost?
Okay. To answer that simply, the models that are available would definitely be high-end models. Some of them averaging around 5,000 onwards. And the set-top box would be the best solution to have your system, if you already have it, right there and ready.
Dr. Grant, I'm coming back to you. Could you tell us a bit about your engagement with your consumers, your consultation process? How did you approach that process? We here, this is our first salvo in terms of presenting this to our end users here in Trinidad and Tobago. What was your experience like in Jamaica?
Well, actually, what we're in the process of doing, and we did a lot of, because of how early we were in the adaptation of the technology, we were actually engaged with a number of set-top box manufacturers across the world who we were participating with the tests. So we had the boxes and we're doing things and they did upgrades, so there are a number of them. So we had a great idea around what worked and how it didn't work and what was good and what wasn't good. But we're going even further because we do have a concern about just making an assumption that that everybody will be able to work with the box if they get the box. I think the situation, I was in a forum with TNT team where we know there is a significant difference between the Trinidadian scenario and the Jamaican scenario in terms of internet penetration, and therefore the number of people in our environment that are going to really need this because that's the only way to get to you, right? So our internet penetration is probably around about 60%, and that is access to, not necessarily being accessed. So what we've actually done, we ordered a number of boxes, small number of boxes. We're running a pilot around people who don't have cable and only access through the over-the-air. And the idea of that particular group is to kind of get a lot of feedback on what their experience is with getting the box, setting it up, how do they interface with what they see, because a lot of things that you have to understand. If you're used to watching cable, you have an understanding of what that looks like. But just imagine if you're not used to watching cable, the first time you click on this box, it's going to be like, what is this? So we're trying to select different people from different parts of Jamaica, different age groups, so that we can see how difficult or how easy it is for various people to log on and to get involved, because we think that's important in determining what kind of support the rollout is going to need. Are you going to need people to be going through with certain parts of the society to help them to get the box in? How many people will you be able to give it? It's a plug and play, you stick in your HDMI cable and you turn it on and you're good to go. So we're doing that assessment now actually in a very robust way with a pilot of 70 boxes that we bought of the approved certified boxes that were done in the US. We currently know that there are 4 certified boxes and therefore we have options. Another thing on a certified box that's important for us is the feedback, the return path to get information, which is one of the big game changers for the broadcaster. So at the moment, only one of those boxes will be carrying the SIM card that would allow for that return path. So there are a lot of little different things that we need to think about. I heard a conversation around the multicasting concept, which is what I think Trinidad is doing. In our situation, it's a lot different. As I indicated, to cover the island is like going to be 20 towers. So what has happened in our case is that the government has said to current broadcasters, we're going to grandfather you. You can keep your network if you want. If you want to come off, you can, but you can keep your network. That's just you. We are not allowing you to be a multicaster. right? And then the multicasting is there, put something up to tender. If there's going to be a multicaster, that person would come in, and then I guess the other people who want to join the broadcasting space would be able to go in through that.
Thank you very much. At this time, we are going to invite our viewers to participate in the conversation. We're going to get that telephone number up on your screens in a short while. We will continue the discussion in studio and with Dr. Grant online, and we will interrupt ourselves when you do in fact call in with your concerns, your questions, your comments. All I ask is that you keep it as brief as possible so we can get as many persons calling in as possible. The number to call, 623-1711. That number again, 623-1711, and it's extensions 1996-1996 or 1997-1997. Again, you can call in right now and we will entertain your contributions. Again, keep it as brief as possible. 623-1711, extensions 1996 or 1997. Mr. Regulator, I am someone who may be interested, and I'm providing the voice of someone who may be looking at the program. All I want is the internet service. As currently constructed, it's bundled into another service, be it a telephone, be it the cable. Can we look forward to some separation of powers, or is there a current system in place that informs the regulator that they are to provide only the service that I want?
Right. It's an interesting question.
Hold the answer. We have a caller on the line. We'll come back to it. Welcome, caller.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so is it not a fact that nearly all the TVs, all the flat screen TVs that we have on the market right now, that say like 5 years and more or so, are compatible with digital TV?
So I would let Shiraz tackle that one. And I think this is something that we have to clear up. Are smart TVs digital TVs? And are these smart/digital TVs compatible with ATSC 3.0?
The answer to that is based on the time frame in which they were manufactured. They will be, most likely, digital, whether it's based on QAM, whether it's based on ATSC 1.0. But ATSC 3.0 differs from all of them, and it's not backward compatible.
So we do have digital TVs that are not ATSC 3.0 compatible.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. We have another call on the line. Welcome, caller.
Hello, good night.
Good evening.
Good evening. I was just calling to find out, Mr. Prescott, what percentage of the population in Trinidad and Tobago uses over-the-air services, and does it justify the cost of moving to this digital platform?
Sure. Happy to take that question. Good night, caller. Thanks so much for raising that question. So the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago in 2021 would have conducted a digital inclusion survey, which is where we went out, we got a sample of thousands of people, and we collected information on people's internet usage, how much people have access to the internet, how many people have computers at home, what type of devices. And one of the questions in that survey was how many people still access over-the-air television, free-to-air television. We were, I guess, pleasantly surprised, I would say, that the percentage was still substantial. At 26% of respondents to the survey indicated that their primary source of access to television was free-to-air television. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago, our last census has the number of households in the country at 405,000, right? And that was a 2011 figure. So it's probably about 420,000 households. So at 26% of that, we're talking about well over 100,000 households. And at 3.5 persons per household, we're talking about well over 300,000 people still rely on free-to-air television as their primary source of information. What more, in addition to just the numbers, in addition to just the sheer number of people being significant, with digital, you can deliver more to that population, right? You know, it's not just entertainment, it's not just TV, it's not just news you're watching. You can provide digital information. You could provide public safety information. You can stream data to these folks. You can provide educational content to these individuals. So when you talk about, you know, the government has this agenda on the digital transformation of Trinidad and Tobago, and one of the critical pillars of that transformation agenda is ensuring that digital technology is universally accessible. Then this particular initiative, this particular transition is fundamental to ensuring that digital technology is universally available to everyone in Trinidad and Tobago.
And on that note, we'll welcome our next caller. Caller, welcome.
Good night to the panel. How are you doing?
We are great. Thank you for calling.
Beautiful to hear. All right. My concern is with the digital transformation and along the digital is that we always have the problem of penetration into remote areas, right? Especially where we don't have fiber to provide cable service or cable television service to customers. We have that problem in Trinidad and Tobago, especially. So I hope there is a plan to probably concentrate on these remote areas and run some testing to ensure that persons, well, especially in the rainy season, we have the foliage and the moisture involved that may cause a hamper with the signal. So I am hoping that tests have been done in these remote areas to ensure that persons can receive sufficient signal to view their programs.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, caller.
I guess that one is for me again. I have to say the quality of these questions are excellent. So, absolutely, that is one of the critical areas for attention as we embark upon this transition. Now, one of the things when I spoke about the ability for the broadcasters to share infrastructure in this rollout. So, whereas in the analog world, the concern of the caller was very relevant because you would have each broadcaster would have to set up their transmitter, and whatever that transmitter covered was that, right? Now you have the opportunity for the broadcasters to actually jointly work together, right, to deploy infrastructure in a more cost-effective manner to ensure that once one transmitter is set up, you get 3-4 broadcasters in that community, and they can expand their geographic coverage nationally. And in the authorization, let me just finish the answer to the caller. In the authorization that we will be granting to the providers, whether the network provider or the individual broadcasters, to provide digital signal, one of the areas that will be a condition of the authorization is to provide 90% or over 90% population coverage in both islands of Trinidad and Tobago.
Excellent. Welcome, caller. Thank you for your patience.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening and welcome.
Yes, good evening to the panel there. Very interesting topic. What I want to find out is, I don't know if it was said before, but what I would like to find out is what will be the cost, besides the cost of the equipment, will there be a monthly subscription you have to pay? Because that is one of the things that people would consider in switching. So that is my question. What will be the cost of the two?
That's the question. Is it going to cost anything beyond the cost of the equipment?
No. Well, I would say, so the free-to-air broadcast, the free-to-air broadcast that you receive today, your Channel 6, your Parliament channels, and so on and so forth, those will remain free-to-air. Absolutely. Once you purchase whether the accessory, or you purchase a compatible television set.
Or if you have a set that's already compatible.
Well, then you just buy the accessory, the set-top box. Correct. If you already had a set that supports ATSC 3, then absolutely, there's not going to be any recurrent costs, any monthly fee to receive the existing free-to-air broadcast. Now, if it is that a broadcaster comes with a value-add service, right, a pay-per-view service, these are things that the digital technology can enable. So as an additional channel, using the same spectrum, they make a premium service available. and you wish to subscribe to that service, that is something that digital technology will enable and will facilitate.
But to assuage the concerns of the caller, what you currently enjoy at no cost, you will continue free.
Yes.
We have another caller on the line. Welcome, caller.
Yes, good night, and thanks for taking my call. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
My concern is a concern. I find this digital transformation, I find it's a little hesitancy, even at the ministry level. I find people not buying into it. I feel we should be much more advanced in this digital transformation thing that they want to say. I find people very hesitant about it. Even at the ministry level, I heard the minister express some frustration in that regard. I want to know what you have to say about that. People buying into it.
I think this call is talking about our general culture of being hesitant to engage in that digital transformation process. And how would that translate into now that we are moving away completely in the long term from the analog to now a fully digital experience?
Yeah. What I would say to the callers, I mean, I would absolutely say there's a huge push towards digital transformation, at least from the government perspective. I mean, yes, there may be hesitation, but that hesitation is something that is native to any major change effort that you're going through. It doesn't have to just be digital transformation. Any change that people are going through, there's hesitation. And this is where the role and responsibility of the relevant folks in authorities to continue to communicate and to explain the benefits that we will enjoy by moving towards that digital endpoint that we're aiming towards. And I think this particular initiative around the digital terrestrial television transition is yet another aspect of this digital transformation journey that we're on, and it's a continued demonstration that as a country we are committed to it. We see what the benefits are, and we are excited and ready to embark upon this journey.
We have another call on the line, and we are perilously close to the top of the hour, getting ready to wrap up. But we will take this final caller. Caller, welcome.
And I will be going fast, so I hope you are taking notes. I have 3 questions to follow up on a caller earlier. 1, would this new feature allow for watch-on-demand services? 2, would media outlets still require STL frequencies in order to broadcast? And probably most importantly, the resilience of such a system in times of disaster, in terms of how easy would it be for the broadcaster to get back on air, and also for persons to access the service in the absence of some of the services like internet and so forth that they may lose during times of disaster. Those are the 3 questions.
There's 4, right? So I got the 4 questions. The first one was, will this enable watch on demand? The short answer is it can, all right? There are 2 models for watch on demand that it can support. There's a watch on demand functionality that's enabled or integrated with your broadband service. If you have broadband and it's connected to your television or set-top box, you're able to, from your guide, pick a program to watch, and it will connect to the broadcaster's platform and play that program. So yes, there is the ability, whether integrated with your broadband service or separated, for that to be supported. The second question, I heard a question around broadcasters requiring studio-to-transmitter frequencies. It will depend on the broadcaster's model, right? So if the broadcaster were to just deliver its signal to the network operator, the network operator that's providing the digital broadcast network, they would still need transmitter links. They would still need links to get to the various transmitters across the country. So those will be required. But the individual broadcasters need them? Not necessarily, unless they choose to operate their own digital terrestrial network. I heard a question around resilience. So obviously, this is a feature of even current broadcast systems. To provide resilience, they have to provide redundancy. Redundancy is the key, right? What the beauty of a shared broadcast infrastructure would do it allows us to spare up on each part far more easily than having for each individual broadcaster to have space for its network. So yes, the full intention and expectation is that there will be a fully resilient infrastructure that could withstand any force majeure event. Yeah.
So we are very close to wrapping up, but
I have a question to answer for you, though.
Yes,
about
you do.
The bundling of services.
And I'm saving you for last. I'm coming back to you.
Yes.
Shiraz, from where you sit and your experience, do you think we will be ready to support what is happening via the industry, via the regulator, and getting our consumers, our end users, equipped for this transition?
I believe that's very, very possible. A lot of equipment already in place. Structure is already there. Your existing antennas can be used to receive your signals. So if you already use terrestrial signals and it's free to air, it's just going to be adapted to the technology. So we are gearing up to be ready by same time frame that's projected.
Dr. Grant, I'm coming back to you as we get ready to wrap up. We have just about 2 minutes, under 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. Could you give us a brief wrap-up in terms of how you move from today, looking ahead, and what is your anticipation for the Jamaican environment?
Well, I mean, it's the technology is a game changer for broadcasters, right? Because we are talking here a lot about a change of seeing the signal as we currently do. But all of the other things that are possible with this new technology are really exciting. I think the idea of people being able to get more on free-to-air, and the big word is free. Mm-hmm. That's the big word. You know, the idea that you will be able to get more channels for free. I also think it's going to provide a space for more local content of all different forms to be created. It also is going to create other methods of engaging our people. And that's just going to make a big difference to how we see ourselves as various nations across the region. So that's a big deal. For us, we're at the stage where it's the stimulation of the audience to come on board, right? That's going to be very important component of what we do. This year is an Olympic year, and we're hoping to have that product. For Jamaica, Olympics is a big deal. I mean, track and field is kind of how we breathe around here. So we believe that is going to be a very important component, sports in general. And we intend to have people see the Olympics in a way, or give them the opportunity to see the Olympics in a way that they would never have been able to do in this region. When you buy the rights for the Olympics, you actually don't just get one feed. There's probably about 30 feeds that you get. But free-to-air broadcasters in the region were never able to utilize that content because you couldn't. You had, one station. So it's really going to be a matter for us now to demonstrate to audiences what the difference is, establish here is a way that you can see things that normally you would not have been able to see. It's also a new opportunity for the industry because what it can do for advertising. So you're going to have now more real estate, able to create different packages, different types of brands. TVJ, TV6 within a network can be the premium brand, and then you have other brands that deliver different things, and so people can come in at different price points. Yes, it's going to create more competition, and sometimes competition, if not properly managed, can be damaging to the quality of products, but I think we have to be wise to that and just ensure that we don't end up dumbing down things and not getting a good quality product out. It's not necessarily saying I have the ability to have a lot of channels, so I'm going to roll out 20, 30 channels. You have to roll it out in a way that makes sense for you, the broadcaster, and also for the audience. We're really excited about ATSC 3.0, and we're using the branded name down here because we think that means more to people, which is next gen TV, because that's what it is, next generation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grant, and you have successfully excited some of our viewers as well. We are out of time. This has been a fantastic discourse. I'm still holding you to answer that question, though. And the discourse will not end with this program. So on behalf of the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, Shiraz, Khaled, Dr. Grant, I want to say thank you, and thank you, our viewers, for tuning in. Visit the website of the Telecom Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Continue to reach out with the dialogue, and let's get ready to embrace the future of television. Special thanks to the team here at TV6. My name is Wendell Etienne. God bless you all. Good night.
The preceding program was a live broadcast brought to you by the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago.